Hi, I'm Lawrence Burton.
And I'm Lenny Burton.
And together we are Octave One.
We are here at Point Blank Music School in London. Let's do this.
For sure.
Well, our setup does not consist of a laptop computer as you might see. The reason is, for one thing, we're old school. We were doing this prior to computers being such an integral part of making music. As technology progressed, we actually tried a few times to work with laptops live, and what we found was that these computers were actually taking our attention away from performing. So what we did is, after we tried it for a few shows, decided it just wasn't going to work, and go back to the environment that we're very comfortable with, and we're very comfortable with the hardware setup. It was the love of just being able to interact with these machines that kept us going. And for us to take that element out from our live performance would not be fun at all. Everything has its own personality. We like to say that it's 3 members of the band. It's myself, it's Lawrence, and then it's the Mothership. So we're all interacting together. It's a very organic environment, actually. Brain for our setup is the Akai MPC 1000. We've actually used 2 other models of MPC in our live show. We've used the Akai MPC 2000, and we also use the Akai MPC 2000 XL in our live show. We've now adopted the MPC 1000 for a few different reasons. One is the size. If you can see, it's much smaller than the original 2000 and 2000 XL. The power is much more powerful. The OS, we actually use a JJOS, and the JJOS is actually an operating system that was done by a former employee of Akai. He added tons more features that originally you could not get with this unit. It gives it a lot more freedom. It allows you to do a lot more interesting routing as far as your MIDI. It also is very stable. It's a very stable piece. JJOS itself is a stable OS that you wouldn't think that a third-party operating system would be as stable as JJOS, but it really is. With the MPC, we use both outputs. There's a output and there's a B output, and we use them to pretty much power our entire, the mothership itself. It's our master clock. It sends master clock to, I think there are probably like about 4 pieces that require clock. The Roland VP9000, both Korg EMX1s, Korg KP3 Plus, and some of the synths, sometimes some of the packages require clock. All the main sequences come off of the MPC 1000. It goes into 2 MIDI throughs. There's a MIDI through here, and there's also a MIDI through there. This particular piece that is actually attached to is what we affectionately call the warp core. But basically what it is that it is our distribution center for power and our distribution center for MIDI. So most of the things that are powered, all the little synthesizers and stuff are plugged into the warp core. All our MIDI goes into this particular area. And it helps because it's centralized. When something goes wrong, I can look in one spot and actually say, well, look, there's something going wrong with the MIDI. I can start at this position. Something going wrong with the power, I can start at this position. It helps not to have everything, especially with the power, all back here where it's kind of difficult to get to. It's all in your face, and it makes it a lot easier as far as the setup. There are a lot of different central points that are also part of besides the warp core itself. There's a second one that we've just kind of put into play. There's MIDI that goes into it, and it also is power that goes into several of the units. It powers the Korg EMX1, this particular chord. It powers the scooper, powers this DBX unit, which is it's a multi-effect unit that actually does compression, it does sub-bass, a couple other things. It powers the lights. It helps to have central points, so if something goes wrong, you know where to look first, as opposed to trying to, dip behind and seeing maybe something went wrong back here. You can look at a central point, and many times that's where your problem is going to be, is where either going to be here, depends on what unit is messing up. It's going to be here, depending on what unit is messing up. These things are really important when you're playing. But you don't have to be trying to think where something is when you have to correct the problem. That's a lot of this has the setup has to do with being able to get at things quickly for performance purposes and also for correcting a problem. The MPC is the brain, where it actually exchanges the patches on pretty much all of the gear except for the gear that doesn't have patch storage. The Mi Blip doesn't have patch storage. TB03 doesn't have patch storage. Now the Minotaur does have patch storage. Originally it didn't. So anything that has patch storage, when we put the song together, the MPC, it not only is it triggering the MIDI, not only is it triggering the MIDI time clock, and it's also triggering the patch changes. Once again, it's our other member. Let's say it's triggering bass lines off of the Tetra. Maybe it's triggering a line off the Tetra. We actually have it so that we can take that MIDI, we can actually dump that MIDI into this EMX and have now the EMX trigger the Tetra. We can cut off that line off of here, and then on the EMX we can go and start to actually manipulate that particular patch or that particular sound, so we can say and take notes in and out and things like that. What we try to do is not have this just as like a playback unit and we stand and just look. Our job is to be the human element. We go in and all of a sudden it's like, all right, it's running. Lawrence can go in, he can mute whatever pieces he wants to say. Like, I don't want to hear the bass line now. I don't want to hear this hi-hat now. I don't want this to happen. I don't want that to happen. He can change the arrangements on the fly. Everything is about being able to change things on the fly. And this unit is the one that first corrects everything and brings it actually does patch changes also on the EMX1, the primary unit. It does not do patch changes on the secondary unit. The primary unit, it'll do song changes if I want it to actually. Sometimes I want to just ride whatever pattern is riding, so I'll just cut it off. That's other things you get to do too. Have it so it doesn't do the changes if you don't want it to do the changes. There are plenty of times where we'll say mentally, we'll go, I don't want this to happen. Don't allow this to happen, and we'll cut it off in the MPC. It's the unit that first brings the song up, and then we take the song and we mess the song up. Our drum sounds come from several different units. The primary base of the drums, some of them come off of the MPC. Normally the kick drum comes from the MPC, the basic kick. We also have a secondary kick that comes off the micro modular. We have a kit that we've put together as a custom kit off the micro modular so that we can actually bring in another kick. And then there's the third kick if we like to bring one in. That also comes off of the MFB 522 drum computer. It's pretty much an 808 clone. It doesn't necessarily sound like an 808, but it's an analog unit. And it gives you a lot of, especially with the low end kick, it breathes. It's really, really nice piece where it actually breathes. As long as you have the swing that are pretty much matching each other, you can go in between them. You can cut this kick off, cut this kick on, cut that kick off, cut this kick on. Pretty much you give you a bit more freedom. Sometimes this is going to be more of our 909 sounds. These are going to be more of our 808 sounds. Also, out of the micro modular, there's kind of an 808 kind of sounding kick that we also get a chance to kind of bring in and play with sometimes. Besides the MPC 1000 being our primary, a lot of the hi-hats and the higher end sounds we come off of the EMX. It gives us a lot of freedom where I can play with the tuning because it's not just a static sample. You can play with tuning, you can play with the decay, effects. It actually gives you a chance to kind of really be a lot more interactive. The EMX is not only playing its own drums, it's triggering the actual MFB 522 drum computer. We don't use the internal sequencer off of that. This and this are pretty much layered together. It just depends on what songs, what sounds we want to do. Sometimes we might want to cut off, let's say, the hand clap out of here and only use the hand clap out of here. Sometimes we want to use both hand claps together. Same with like rides. And then pretty much what we try to do is have the sounds kind of lining up together. Like if this is going to be a snare or if this is going to be a hand clap. So I have a clap that's actually coming out of, there's a clap that's coming out of the EMX. But there's also a clap that's on top of this coming out of the MFB 522 where I can do all kinds of crazy tricks. The MFB is actually running through the scooper where I can do some actual delays and have a bit of fun with it. I can play with the tuning on that if I want to because it's right in your face. You can play with the tuning. Do the same with the snares. And it's a layer of a snare actually, where, let's see if I can. That right there is the EMX snare. This right here is the MFB on top of it. We can turn the EMX snare off. And that's just the MFB. Which is really cool because the MFB is an analog piece and you can really hear it breathing. EMX is a digital piece, but the combination of them both, you can actually get some really interesting sound. A lot of things in our set are layered. A lot of the drums are layered. Same thing when we're doing drums off of the secondary chord, secondary EMX. What we'll do with it is we will trigger drums off of the micro modular. So the micro modular, let's see if I can bring it up. I have to actually. So the micro modular actually is running. The audio is running into the scooper and also into the EMX, where we can add like a little bit of verb, delay, and then another delay if we want to. On the micro modular, I have done a bit of customizing where I took the performance knobs and actually added them into the middle of the unit, bigger pots. And for this particular kit, I primarily have these pots set for the decay off of 3 instruments. One of them being that the snare clap combination, which we have both of them running at the moment. Okay, there's your snare. And the sounds are primarily made from a white noise source. So when I increase the decay, I get a bit of white noise coming through. I can tighten it up. If I want to get it really interesting, I can add some. And we also have that kick drum I was talking about. When we design the setup is to get some freedom. I mean, my end is dealing with all of these different synths and stuff like that, and Lawrence's end is primarily with the effects, and he can jack stuff up even a lot more. So I might start something, and he'll end up finishing. You know, he might start something with, let's say, some crazy reverb, and I'll start feeling it's like, well, within this reverb, I want to start adding a roll, you know, and start making it a bit more exciting, and I can build up his reverb more and more. But I mean, we get a chance to really kind of be very interactive with a song, so that it definitely isn't the same each time we play it. We can raise up a song with drums. We can raise up a song with strings or voices. We get a lot of things that we can do on top of things to kind of, you know, be a lot interactive with it. And with our third member doing some of the work, we can do the rest of the work. It's drums coming from all over the place. I mean, it's drums coming MPC, drums coming from both EMXs, there's drums coming from the MFB 522 drum computer, there's drums coming from the Norg micromodular, just so we can have some variety. It's the same with the synthesizers. There's synth sounds coming from all over the place. I mean, the Minotaurs are primarily as our bass unit, but with the Minotaur, we have other things. We'll layer it many times with the Mofo. We'll always layer it with the Me Blip SC. Me Blip SC is playing usually the top end of a bass sound. Minotaur is usually playing the low end of a bass sound. We like to layer it, and then you can jack with the frequency of the top end and not affect the low end of a bass sound when you're playing. So you don't lose the bass, but you can affect the top end of something. Which a lot of times when you do that with the principal sound, when you start opening up the filter or start messing with the resonance, you'll lose some of the low end, because we're doing a lot of layers, a lot of layering. Tremendous amount of layering. You know, it's like, why do you have so many synths? Because the bass might be playing 3 synths at one time, might be playing the bass. Well, the lead line might be playing 2 synths at one time. It's a lot of that going on. Lawrence can talk about the effects that he has. It isn't. I have some, but he has a lot more.
Those are my secret weapons. No.
Yeah.
We use adrenaline, a Rogerlin Adrenaline 2, Eventide Space, Eventide H9, and Alesis Nanoverb 2, which a lot of people can't understand why we use, but we just like the way it sounds. And the idea is just to play with things, to change the soundscape as things go along, change the soundscape at breakdowns, or just change the attitude or the aggression, or making a song laid back. So it's not really a secret formula or anything, it's just a feel. You hear the room, you hear how big the room is, well, you don't just drown it with reverb, you just let things kind of, if you want to keep a good hard jack in the room, you just creep it in and just let things kind of create a momentum. The Midas is just something that we always like to be consistent. In the beginning, when we were touring, promoters would bring us all kind of mixing consoles. And we found that we couldn't progress as artists because we were worried, well, 3 channels don't work, or this channel is popping. I'll touch the EQ and it just started crackling all over the place. Or they would bring us, hey, we need a 32 channel board. They would bring us 2 16s or something like that. Or can you get this all in a 12 channel mixer, everything in a 12 channel mixer? So we had to come up with something, and we did a show in Copenhagen, and they brought this board to us, and from there we just fell in love. We demand it on every show. It's pretty tough. That's a big thing too, and it kind of handles a lot of heat for the most part. Because some clubs are just, they can be a little bit unbearable. So this board really can handle just anything we put through it. And I'm pretty much mixing. Sometimes I'll change the structure of the song. I might want to go in a little easier instead of being so aggressive. I might want to lay it back a little bit. It just depends on if we're playing a house set with a bunch of house artists, or if we're playing just dead on hard techno. It just depends. But sometimes I like to strip things down, or I might like to stack things on top of him stacking things. So yeah, effects and EQs and mute buttons. I enjoy the mixing part of it.
Lawrence primarily is the engineer in the studio anyway. It's just logical for him to be at that end. Lawrence brings in his feel for DJing to that particular portion of it. I was always the tech guy. You know, I'm the guy who figured the gear out. I'm the guy who wires the studio. So it made sense for me to be at this end. They were just natural roles. We just fell into them. We didn't discuss it or anything to that point. We just did it. I'm comfortable here. Lawrence is comfortable there, and this is pretty much the roles that we picked. And we picked them unconsciously. We just fell into them, and it's just the perfect match for us. This setup is designed for performance. This is a performance setup. A lot of the pieces have been adopted primarily so they will be comfortable in a performance setting. It's not a lot of freedom you can get from just samples running. Yeah, you can do some effects and stuff like that. It's nothing like a synth breathing. Feeling a real raw synthesizer ripping through the system is nothing like it. It's absolutely nothing like it. It's a great time to be able to do this kind of a hardware setup because of these manufacturers making all these small units. There was no way in the past we could drag this many synthesizers out with us because they never made things this small. But it's a great time to be doing this because you can bring so much with you that you couldn't even imagine bringing before. You'd have to have, you know, a ton of guys with rigs to bring all these synths. Now, our setup primarily fits in 6 cases. For what we're actually bringing, that really isn't a lot. Honestly, to do a setup like this in the past, where you'd have all the big versions of these synthesizers, you'd have to have, you'd have to have a truck to bring that stuff. Now we can check this stuff on the airplane and go to the next gig.
Don't be afraid to experiment and fail.
Yeah, we failed a lot.
We failed a lot. You just got to jump off the cliff.
When you allow yourself to make these mistakes, messing up the arrangement, doing things that maybe the original record didn't do. In fact, that's what you always should be doing, things that the original record didn't do. It's where the fun begins. It's a whole nother element. It's past the studio. When you're playing live, you should think out the box, and it should not be like a DJ show. It should not be like a DJ gig. It should be you interpreting your music.
That's it. That's how it's done.
That's the basics. Hopefully you got a general idea of what we did, and you enjoyed it. Thank you very much.
Ciao.